Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Jets Final Drive. I'm your host, Jeane Coakley, and today, like every day, I am joined by the great Connor Hughes. And our guest for this week is the one and only, couldn't ask for a better first guest for our first show, John Jastremski. JJ, Connor, how excited are you guys?
I'm excited for this program to get started off. I mean, I think it would probably be a little bit more exciting if we were talking about a win after this one, but I know there's a ton of, we're going to be breaking that down here over the next 30 minutes or so.
Very stoked, Jeane and Connor. Obviously, it's great to have football back in our lives. It's great that Aaron Rodgers was able to make it through four quarters, and we'll get to plenty of the negatives that we saw in this football game, but at least unlike last year, guys, he didn't get hurt. It's okay.
Yes, made it four quarters. We have a healthy Aaron Rodgers. All right, guys. So since we're all new here, well, we're not new. We all know each other. But since this is a new show, let me quickly break down how it's going to operate. So after each game, the day after, we are going to break down everything Jets on and off the field. That sounds like fun. We're also going to branch out. We're going to talk about the AFC East news. We're going to debate about that. We're going to talk everything football. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Well, we've already mentioned our first topic. Got to talk about the great Aaron Rodgers, and he's healthy. First time we've seen this guy play in almost 2 years, which is crazy to me. So let me make sure I get his stats right. So he made his much anticipated return, but the Jets ended up, as we talked about, didn't win the game. They lost 32-19. But, you know, we've had time to digest. We were able to see how he played. How did you think he played, Connor?
I was impressed with him, and it did leave you longing for more, and I think one of the big reasons for that was he only threw, 21 passes? We were just talking about it. I don't think that was his fault. I mean, this was probably the first time that I can remember, at least over the last 10 years, Jeane, where back was held back by the offense. There was a drop by Allen Lazard that could have extended the first drive. There was the fumble by Breece Hall that could have extended that one. The Garrett Wilson not being able to get his second foot there. I mean, there were a couple of bad throws from Aaron Rodgers. The interception wasn't great. He should have led Garrett Wilson on that 4th-and-1 slant, and Garrett's probably still running for that. But I think what you got a glimpse of on Monday night in San Francisco is what we've been telling you this guy is doing consistently in practice. That touchdown that he threw to Allen Lazard on the free play. I mean, that entire drive, by the way, Jeane, was orchestrated by Aaron Rodgers himself. It felt like he stepped back and was like, you know what, enough of this. We need a touchdown. We're going down there. He had guys going, no, you two left, one right. We're going tempo. We're moving down the field. Bing, bang, bang. It was amazing. And then the 12-play 70-yarder, the way he was connecting with Garrett Wilson so consistently on third down, we knew there was going to be rust, Jeane. We knew that. There was too many new pieces on this offense, 3 new starters on the offensive line. Aaron Rodgers, Vera Tucker, they are coming back from season-ending injuries. There was so much there that was going to hold this team back early in the season. But what we saw was a glimpse of what this is going to be when they put it all together. And when they put it all together, this offense has the chance to be special because that is a very, very good offensive line. There are some very, very, very good receivers. And Allen Lazard, by the way, stepping up and playing well. That was a very welcome sight for the Jets. And Breece Hall will get going as well. I know it's a little disappointing because you couldn't see it in totality for 4 quarters, but you saw what they can do. They just need to knock some additional rust off.
And JJ, this is a 40-year-old guy coming off an Achilles injury. What did you think? I mean, again, he doesn't have to be the MVP Rodgers.
Well, that's the thing, Jeane. We're talking about a guy that didn't basically play an entire year of football. He's coming off a torn Achilles, and he's north of 40 years old. As far as when Aaron Rodgers has time to throw the football, Connor kind of hinted at it. He can sling it with the best of them. I mean, he was throwing back shoulders. The free play to Allen Lazard is brilliant. There's no doubting the acumen, the football intelligence, and the arm strength of Aaron Rodgers. That's all going to be there. That's all going to be a major asset. And from a standpoint of what the Jets have been working with at quarterback over the last few years, this is not a guy who's going to be holding the team back. Now, if I'm going to go glass half empty, Aaron Rodgers, when he was a Green Bay Packer, had way more mobility. Now, I don't know how much of that is the Achilles. I don't know how much of that is the rust factor or his age, but it didn't seem like Aaron Rodgers, gang, had that same mobility, getting out, the naked bootlegs, making things happen with his legs. I don't think you're going to see that version of Aaron Rodgers, but that's okay. If you get quality offensive line play, if you run the football effectively, he has time to throw. He is going to be able to make things happen. And as far as his arm and as far as being able to read a defense, I don't have to worry about that. And the problem is, Jeane, Connor, you guys know this. You're around the Jets all the time. They've had plenty of quarterbacks over the last 9 years who have not been able to do those simple things. So it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, and JJ, you hit the nail right on the head there, is that he's not the Aaron Rodgers of old when it comes to mobility. And I think, honestly, more of that's probably age. Now, he's not Eli Manning in the pocket. He's not Kirk Cousins. He's not Joe Flacco. He can still get out of there. You saw it a little bit when he booted around. I think it was Bosa who ended up getting a hit on him. But he was able to escape the pocket and release a ball. I mean, he's not going to run like Mahomes does now or things like that. But he still has some mobility. My big concern coming out of this offense or this game, it had nothing to do with Rodgers. Breece, I genuinely believe he's going to get going. The offensive line, the receivers, I think they're going to be fine. When we talked about this team, Jeane, going into this season, and JJ, I truly, for the first time, maybe in 14 full years, I didn't see a glaring weakness on paper with the offense. Not at receiver. I mean, maybe wide receiver 2, but if wide receiver 2 is the biggest problem with this team, that's a very good problem to have. And even then, they had guys that they liked. Mike Williams, he's going to get healthy. Allen Lazard, you figure he's going to have a bounce-back year. Certainly did to start the year with Aaron Rodgers, but I liked a lot of those pieces. The issue and the concern that I had with the Jets, it was with Nathaniel Hackett. That was my concern. And we talked about this a ton on SNY and at different points of the offseason. The Jets did make multiple efforts to go out there and hire Arthur Smith to bring him into this organization where he would have been the lead voice in the offensive room. They weren't going to fire Nathaniel Hackett, but Smith was going to be the point man, basically calling the shots. That told me that internally the Jets had some concerns, at least some minimal concerns with Nathaniel Hackett, because if you were fine and loved everything and thought it was all hunky-dory, you're not trying to hire someone to fix the offense. What I saw in the opener against San Francisco, aside from when Rodgers took over with some of his brilliance and basically said, screw this, guys, we're going down the field, it was basic. It was run, pass. It was a lot of the same problems and concerns and issues that I had with the Jets last year. The only difference was now they had competence at quarterback. And I think that there was this feeling within the Jets building that Aaron Rodgers could fix a lot of the problems on offense. And I do believe that he will fix a lot of the problems on offense. But you can't in the NFL have a player also be the coach calling the offense doing this. Those days just don't. And when Johnny Unitas was doing that and Peyton Manning really early at portions of his career, that doesn't really exist anymore. It's a lot of pressure to put on one guy's plate. If there's one, make note of it, asterisk, because I had the issues before and I still have them now, it's that I don't necessarily know if the Jets are set up for long-term success at that coaching position with the offensive coordinator, because I don't fully trust Nathaniel Hackett yet, if I'm being honest with you. And after watching this game, I still have those same reservations. I still have those same concerns.
Okay, so we've discussed Aaron Rodgers. We're confident that this offense is the best quarterback we've seen in Jets in a long, long time. The thing that stood out to me was the Jets' defense. Should we be a little concerned in how much was this Haason Reddick wasn't part of the team yet? JJ?
I'm not looking at this as a Haason Reddick issue necessarily, okay. Jeane. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd watch that game if I'm the Jets, and I'd say, wow, it might behoove us to go and get a guy who's been a double-digit sack machine in the building as soon as possible. But this is about the Jets' inability to stop the run. Christian McCaffrey did not play on Monday night. And I know Kyle Shanahan is a brilliant offensive coach. And the Shanahan way, going back to Denver with his dad, it's Mike Anderson, Olandis Gary, Alfred Morris. They know how to find running backs and get the most out of them. But this Jet defense, they got a whole lot of bluster. They got a whole lot of bravado. They act like and talk like they are one of the best defenses in all of football. And
they have been one of the best defenses in all of football.
They have. Jeane, they're good. They're very good. They're not as good as they think they are, in my opinion. I think they're a very good defense. And I think because the offense has been so bad over the last few years, there's kind of been this built-in excuse of, oh, well, we don't have a quarterback. Oh, we're putting these bad spots. And some of that is true, but there are also instances where this defense hasn't gotten a big spot, and specifically last year they did not do a great job of stopping the run. That's obvious. And when I hear the head coach talk to Troy Aikman, and Troy shared those comments during the game saying, hey, when we need to stop the run, we'll be able to do it. Well, from what I saw yesterday, we talk about a weakness, guys. I think the Jets have a lot of talent on the defense. They have a lot of star players on their defense. There's no getting around that. But at the same time, they allowed 8 consecutive scoring drives by the San Francisco 49ers. That's unacceptable. And I expect this defense to be angry and ticked off and play a lot better against the Tennessee Titans. But you're a championship caliber defense. I'm sorry. 8 scoring drives in a row is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, one punt on the first drive.
And Haason Reddick is I mean, he had Defensive Player of the Year votes a couple years ago. So would he have made a difference for the Jets? Yeah, probably. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's had double-digit sacks the last 4 years. I mean, you add him to this defense next to Quinnen Williams, opposite Jermaine Johnson, with Will McDonald working in there as well. Like, yeah, you're going to notice that. You're going to feel that. That's going to make a difference for this team. But the Jets did not lose to the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't think that Haason Reddick would have changed the outcome of this game because, as JJ said, the problem was that they couldn't stop a nosebleed on the ground. It was every time they turned around and handed it off to Jordan Mason, he was picking up 4 or 5 yards of carry. And the pass rush that I do believe is going to be solid for the Jets, to good for the Jets, to potentially very good for the Jets without Haason Reddick, they didn't have an opportunity to pin their ears back and go and rush the passer because they weren't looking at 3rd and 8s. They weren't looking at 3rd and 10s. They weren't looking at 3rd and 7s. It was 3rd and 2. It was 2nd and 5. It was 2nd and 6. They didn't know what was coming because the threat of the run was there. And then once they really established the run, it was play action, hit George Kittle. Play action, hit Debo. Play action, and go over the top of the defense. That's what hurt the Jets. And when the defense has to, as soon as that ball fake comes out and the defense has to pause and go, wait, that slows them down a tick, and that's going to allow Brock Purdy, who already has one of the quicker deliveries in the NFL, to get that ball out quick, get that ball out quick, get that ball out quick. If you look early in this game, the first 2-3 possessions, I thought the Jets generated a decent enough pressure and the defense was doing their job. Where things truly started to fall apart, it was a combination of not stopping the run, the 49ers establishing that run, working in the play action, but then also the Jets' offense inability to sustain drives, which again, the drop by Lazard on the first possession, the fumble, yada, yada, yada. At one point, I think the time of possession battle was like 25-48 to 11 for the Jets, and 7 of those minutes came on one drive. 7 of those minutes came on one drive. So I don't care who's on your defense, you're not going to be able to, especially in week 1 across the country after a long flight, your endurance is going to wear down at that point. But when it comes to missing Haason Reddick, I don't believe that Haason Reddick was the player that the Jets missed. The player who I believe the Jets missed, who would have made a substantial difference in this game, and I think potentially could have flipped this game, was the guy who's playing for the Denver Broncos, and that's John Franklin Myers. Because it is very hard to undersell how important he had been to this team over the last few years, as that ability to be a run-stuffing force on the outside of defensive end, then kick inside and be a pass-rushing presence on the inside. The Jets could survive losing Bryce Huff if it meant they were just giving those snaps to Will McDonald. What it is hard for them to survive, because they haven't figured out how to do it just yet, is when they had to trade John Franklin Myers because they couldn't afford to pay both JFM and Haason Reddick. They now don't have Haason Reddick, they don't have JFM, and they're trying to figure out a way to make it work. One of the reasons we saw Quinnen Williams playing defensive end was they're trying to use him now to fill that JFM role, a role that they didn't need to get rid of if they didn't trade for Haason Reddick. So the player that they missed, it's not Reddick yet. He would have made a difference. He's a dominant player, but they really needed JFM on Monday night.
All right, but again, guys, this is just week 1. No need to overreact quite yet. No one's winning the Super Bowl. But as far as the AFC East goes, every single other team won in week 1. So, JD, I'll put you on the spot first. Who is your AFC East MVP?
It's an easy one for
week
me,
one.
Jay. He's the best player in the division, and it's Josh Allen. His team was down double digits to the Arizona Cardinals. I may have had an investment in the Arizona Cardinals plus 6.5. I thought they were going to win the game outright. And Josh Allen just basically didn't allow that to happen. And one thing I think you're going to see with Buffalo this season, they don't have the same talent on defense that they've had in years past. Their safeties are gone. Matt Milano is gone the first 2.5 months. And I think that team's success is going to be predicated on that guy balling out week in and week out. And he doesn't have Stephon Diggs. He's going to be throwing to a variety of different receivers. But he's as dangerous as any quarterback in the sport not named Patrick Mahomes. So to me in week one, there are a lot of wordy candidates, but I'm going to go with the best player in the division who orchestrates a double-digit comeback, Connor. Give me Josh Allen.
Yeah, JJ, I was talking about Josh actually going into this season. I said this to multiple times, and I genuinely believe he's going to have maybe the best season of his career. I think losing Stephon Diggs, while a tremendous player, the presence that he was, not having to deal with that anymore, space it out, truly just run the offense. I've compared it to Eli Manning losing Jeremy Shockey. I think we're going to see the best of him. But my player, parentheses S, there is for the players of the week in the AFC East. How about the Patriots defense? I mean, what they did to Joe Burrow, I'm on the record on Jets Class, which you guys can watch later this week, saying the Patriots are going to suck. And they took down a team that I believe has a chance to actually make a Super Bowl run. And I know you never want to over embellish what happens in week one. We saw the Jaguars a couple years ago win the opener and then lose their next 15 games and steal Trevor Lawrence from the Jets. But like, this is one of those things where what they did was just impressive. And to see them fight, see them grind, see them claw for Mayo, their new coach, it was again, I know Jet fans hate the Patriots, but just as an outside looking in, it was cool to see that group that probably isn't going to win too many games together this year come together to take down the Bengals and specifically really make some plays. Like that fumble, tight end going in the end zone, and they punched the ball out to recover it, which really could have flipped the game, making a couple stands there. I mean, it's just it was very, very impressive to see that from them in a season where they're not going to be the more talented team on the field all too often.
Here I thought JJ was going to throw someone from Miami Dolphins, but that's okay. I like
hey,
the Josh
it just
Allen.
goes to show you, Jeane, fair and balanced around here. You know, I could have given you Javon Holland with the big strip sack. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle had pretty big games, but hey, I call it like I see it. I got to give.
Again, I love Connor just throwing all the group in together, like not putting a single guy in there. All right,
I wanted Josh Allen, and then JJ took him from me.
Oh, is that what it was? Then you couldn't think fast enough? Like, I'll just do the whole defense in that case. I liked it.
Yeah.
All right, so my next topic, we're going to talk Breece Hall. Is he a top 3 fantasy player? Like, everybody always asks me, should I take Breece Hall as a fantasy guy? I'm like, heck yeah. Do you agree? Top 3?
Yeah.
Connor, you can go first.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I jumped the gun there. But, I mean, this was funny. Like, that, I know people are going to overreact. That fumble he had was the second of his career.
Thank you.
That's the second lost fumble of his career. And it was the fourth play
of Aaron Rodgers being a Jet. I think there's something about the fourth play with Aaron Rodgers. You just got to let it go.
It's just the same thing. And the drop again, it's like, that's not really Breece. And the run game, that was a really, I mean, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. Like, 49ers are a really good team. Like, that's a really, really good team. And they clearly made it their goal to shut down Breece Hall. And the Jets still were running it to him. And you saw him break a couple runs. I mean, he's going to get his carries and his touches. But I've been told from multiple people over there with the Jets that this offense is going to run through Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson is spectacular. Aaron Rodgers is incredible. You're going to see Xavier Gibson. Allen Lazard, obviously, we said multiple times, had a really good game. We're eventually going to see Mike Williams work in there as well. But the focal point of this offense, week in and week out, is going to be Breece Hall. They want to establish the run. I believe when they play teams that are not the San Francisco 49ers, like the Titans coming up, Patriots, Vikings, these teams I don't think are all that good, they're going to establish the run and get it going. And the one major thing that makes him, I believe, a top 3 fantasy option all over the place is you saw it again last night on Monday night. They are featuring him in the passing game. They are using him as a weapon out of the backfield. And I think that's going to continue. And you're going to see him running more routes than just a check down option. So, I think Hall is a tremendous option for most fantasies.
No question. And here's the problem you have with a lot of these running back situations throughout the NFL. It's not a one-horse race. Now, I know the Jets are going to talk up their backups, but let's be real. As Connor just alluded to, it's going to be the Breece Hall show. And not only is he going to be getting a ton of carries, he's also someone that should have a massive role in the passing game. Breece Hall at 39 yards of receiving. I think there are going to be games, gang, where Breece Hall gets 7-8 receptions for 70 to 80 yards, a little Christian McCaffrey light. I hate comparing anybody to C-Mac. I mean, he's the best running back in the league when he plays. But I think we will be looking at Breece Hall without question all year, assuming health continues to be on his side. Top 3 player in fantasy sport. Absolutely.
All right, and Connor, you kind of alluded to our next topic. The Jets were playing the defending NFC champions from last year. This is a really, really good football team. Was it more last night the 49ers being a championship great team, or was it the same old Jets?
No. So here's my stance on it, and we touched upon this a little bit earlier, Janae. There was always going to be rust tied to the Jets. Period. That was going to be the case early on. Like when we were doing season predictions, one of the reasons why I had the Jets around 10 wins this year is not because I didn't think they were one of the 2 or 3 most talented teams in the NFL, not AFC, in the entire NFL, was just because of how many new guys they have to figure out how to work in. It's 3 new just on the offensive line alone. Vera Tucker and Rodgers coming back from season-ending injuries. Allen Lazard coming back from the worst season of his entire career. Mike Williams trying to work in. A second year for Xavier Gibson. Garrett Wilson figuring out Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers figuring out Garrett Wilson. I know that the Jets repped significantly more plays in practice, but that doesn't replace games. That doesn't replace actual live reps. The defense, we were talking about how bad they struggled against the ground. They didn't run a single tackling drill that the media were in attendance for. All of that leads to a situation that is going to take 2 or 3 weeks for these guys to get back into real game shape, to get back into figuring out how to play each other, and then eventually hit their stride. So this game against San Francisco, I thought it was going to be closer once Christian McCaffrey wasn't out there. But no, this was just an example of a team that's still finding their way, that showed you glimpses and pieces of what they can be and what they will become, but they're just not there yet. So I wouldn't freak out. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't be alarmed. And one of the things that is acting very much in the Jets' favor is these next 4 games, they are incredibly winnable. They are all there for the Jets. Every single one of these. We should be talking about the Jets-Bills first matchup of the season with the 4-1 Jets against whatever the Bills are at that point. I genuinely do believe that. This doesn't mean that I wasn't completely just throw away everything we saw last night. Like it's not like you can say, oh, the tackling, the run defense was bad, just forget it, it was week 1. The offense couldn't sustain drives, I forget it, it was just week 1. No. That I'm not saying. Like there were aspects that were alarming. But as far as raising red flags and sounding the alarms, that's not what I would do yet, because a lot of this I do believe is rust. Now, if they struggle the same against the Titans next week, well, I'm a little bit more concerned. Like that's going to be something I'm a little more freaking out about. I still have my issues with Hackett like I was talking about before. But overall, big picture, I still think this is going to be a Jets team that finishes the year with 10 wins. And we are not going to be talking about them winning the AFC East. I think that's going to be JJ's Dolphins. But this will be the team that in December and in January, every analyst is saying, you don't want to play the Jets in the playoffs because they will be peaking and going at the right time. They're just not there yet. I do think, though, major thing, this was a wake-up call. And it should be a wake-up call. I mean, that's because the Niners are what the Jets want to be.
That's what I was going to say. Are the Niners that good? I mean, yeah. They were pretty impressive.
Yes.
Oh, they did without McCaffrey. They're loaded. Yes, everywhere. Yes.
Jeane, think about it. The Niners have been in, 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls? They've been in, I think, 4 straight NFC title games. They have a well-oiled machine. Kyle Shanahan is like this generation's Andy Reid. Like, he's done everything imaginable in football. The only thing he needs to do is win a Super Bowl. And what I'd be alarmed at, this is not a same old Jet loss. You lost to the NFC champs in their building, and they have a loaded roster. But this defense needs to be ready to go. Connor hit at something. Their next 4 games, they're going to be favoring every single one of those games. At Tennessee, game you should win. New England at home, game you should win. Denver, game you should win. Minnesota in London, game you should win. The Jets will be favorites in every single one of those games. I know that there's a rust factor and the idea that there are a lot of new pieces, a lot of new bodies on this team, but these are winnable games. You cannot flush them. This defense has got to be much better. And listen, if there's one element we haven't talked about, Kyle Shanahan's offense ran circles around Robert Saleh's defense. And there's a comfort level with those 2 guys. Saleh was his defensive coordinator. Shanahan obviously has been matching wits with Robert Saleh for a long period of time. That to me was eye-opening. This is not a same old Jet loss. You lose to the Titans on Sunday. Everything I'm saying now, I want a mulligan back for. It's like I'm on the first tee at Silver Lake. Give me the breakfast ball if the Jets lose outright to the Titans. But this is not a same old Jet loss. No way.
What's the one thing that stood out for you about this Jets team? Connor, I'll put you on the spot first.
That stood out to me about this Jets team?
Yeah. Was it Allen Lazard's play?
Yeah.
I know everybody's talking about his fall, training camp.
No, it's right, and it's funny, Jeane, because when we were getting ready for the pregame show, our producer Mike Robinson hit me up with just some things to dig on, going into it, and one of the things he wanted to know about was the wide receiver hierarchy, like what was the receiver situation going to look like. So I made my calls to the people that I know in the Jets building, talked to a handful of players in the locker room. Was like, hey, what are you thinking about this? The resounding player that came out, because I went in expecting to talk a lot about Mike Williams. Everyone kept saying Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard, Allen Lazard. Yeah, Mike Williams is going to be a major factor towards the end of the season into the playoffs, but do not sleep on Allen Lazard. And the one thing that one person told me was that the Jets genuinely believe that this year, they don't know about 1,500 yards, stuff like that, but they felt that Allen Lazard this season was going to be the player that they thought he was going to be when they signed him last season, and then he had the disastrous year. There were outside things, being in New York, first time with a major contract, like, I think that all that kind of got in his head a little bit. He's
and no Aaron Rodgers.
He's got Rodgers. Exactly. And now he's got Rodgers. And I think what I was told is expect to see a Lazard that is major on third down, major in the red zone, and a reliable 50-50 body catcher. We saw all of those things with the exception of one drop against the 49ers, and I expect that to continue. And if he steps up as now they've got a legitimate number 2 opposite Garrett Wilson, plus you still got Mike Williams coming back. They like Xavier a lot in the slot. That's a pretty good receiving trio and eliminates one of those maybe concerns we had with the roster.
And Tyler Conklin, let's not forget about him. Let's throw him in the mix.
Yeah, Conk.
What about you, JJ, real quick?
Well, I think Lazard's a great choice, and he's going to play better this year. You hit at it, Jeane. He's got his quarterback back. There is a chemistry and rapport Allen Lazard has with Aaron Rodgers from years of playing alongside of him. And I think for Aaron Rodgers, coming back off a torn Achilles, hasn't played football in 12 months, I think you're going to see it, especially early in the season. He's going to rely on the guys that he can trust. Simple as that. And he has a trust level with Allen Lazard. So obviously that stands out. But to me, it's the defense. If the Jets are going to be a championship caliber team, and I think we're all in agreement here, they're going to have a winning season. It's an unmitigated disaster if we're not talking about this team playing in January and playing in the postseason. But this game in week 1 better be a one-off. This better be an anomaly because this team needs the defense to go and be great. That's how they're built. I know Aaron Rodgers is here. I know the offense is going to look far more competent. I don't think the Jets this year are going to be rolling out a top 5 offensive team. I think they'll be a good offensive team. I think they'll be a much improved offensive team. I don't think they're rolling out a top 5 offense. That means their defense has got to be in that top 5 level. They can't be allowing 8 or 9 consecutive scoring drives. They can't be missing tackles. And I know San Francisco's really good. I get that. And I know it's week 1 and there's the lack of preseason. Well, there's a lack of preseason for everybody. So now you're playing the Tennessee Titans. They're not the San Francisco 49ers. The next 4 opponents should be, in theory, ready, made to order for this defense. Time to go to work.
Very nice. All right, I'm being told to wrap, but I have like 2 more minutes before my kids come running in with the babysitter. I need to just discuss real quick, Connor, the press box food in 49ers.
Oh, it's good. Oh, it's up there though, Jeane. It's top 4 or top 5, I should say.
AJ,
comes
you
in at
gotta
number
check it
4.
out.
Press box
What
food
they give
power
you? What was the highlight?
Everything. Every option. The
roast
dessert.
chicken, Carving Station roast chicken. The nachos were delicious. They had like a nice little
Cake
Mexican beans and corn beef spread. Also dessert, candy bar, full like cakes and cupcakes and all that other stuff. S'mores bar with an ice cream station. It's elite. Like I said, I didn't adjust it on the power rankings, press box food power rankings, just because 1, 2, and 3 are very, very good with Dallas, which is basically a restaurant, then Mercedes-Benz 2, and number 3 is Tampa's 2 and the Mercedes-Benz with so it's 1 is what do you call it? I'm all over the place. I'm coming off jet lag here. We were talking about what do you call it?
Dallas.
Listen, 49ers, they're top notch.
Dallas, Tampa, Atlanta. There we go. Dallas, Tampa, Atlanta at 1, 2, 3. But then very, very good is San Francisco Levi Stadium number 4.
Now I'm not going to talk about the press box food because you took too long, Connor. You need to wrap it. Now I got to wrap it.
I'll be better when I'm not coming off of it. I literally landed like an hour ago.
Yeah, you really did. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us for the first episode of Jets Final Drive. Now remember, every day after a Jets game, we are going to break down it all, what happened on the field, off the field, across the NFL, and the AFC East. For Connor Hughes, JJ, hey, thanks for being our first guest, JJ. We'll bring you back. Thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it. And maybe coming up, you guys are going to ask some questions. How's that sound?
Done and done.